I've seen those.
Call the meeting to order. This is the Greenway Advisory Committee for November 20th, 2017. We do have a quorum, and AC is going to go through what's been going on with the Greenway lately.
Well, this is more of an informational thing. Y'all know the rain that we had a couple weeks ago did a lot of damage. I brought some pictures and a video that Jerry tried to put up for us so you can kind of see what started everything, and then I think I brought like 8 or 9 or 10 pictures that you can show the major part of the damage. Now keep in mind also that this has not been signed off on yet. The contractors still have this, so it's not ours yet. Last I heard, City Administrator Bruce Richardson had contacted Weiser and Associates, and I have seen some vehicles out there, and some of the engineers have been walking around, but I don't know what the next move is yet. I think it's kind of still up in the air. So this is what I seen 2 Mondays ago when I rode by. That's the parking lot, so just so y'all know. There were 40 some odd shrubs and all those trees. There's one of the trees laying there, but yeah, everything's pretty much gone. It washed everything away. And not only did it wash everything away, it pulled up a piece of pavement. Well, that's the underpass back here behind City Hall. That's once the water finally subsided. Who's that? You and I, wasn't it, John, that rode that? And pretty substantial amount of mud there that once it all receded. That is part of the trail where, I mean, it just washed rock and everything else out there. That's why, I don't know if y'all have seen them or not, but we put up signs that said Greenway is closed due to unsafe conditions. Now, technically, it's not ours, but that's in an attempt to alleviate any city liability in case people are going to go out there anyway. We can't stop that. But at least if it's posted and they go out there and get hurt, we can say, look, we posted, you shouldn't be out here. But that's one of the reasons right there. And that's a concern, but there are couple other things that are bigger concerns. To me, that's a bigger concern, the fact that there's a drop-off on 1.5 feet in some places on that walking trail. And if you go down there and it's kind of dark and you don't see and you step off there, you're going to get hurt. I mean, it's pretty steep in some spots. I mean, look at that. That's a pretty substantial drop. So, but that shows you, because before the rain, it was level with the trail. That's how much water ran through there. And the debris that stuck in the rails, that's how high the water was. So it was pretty substantial. And this is my favorite part. This is a piece of pavement. That whole section you see was picked up and removed, and probably moved, about 40, 50 feet away to the other side of the parking lot in one piece. There it is. I don't know if you can see it, but it just moved the whole thing over and sat it down.
Additional parking.
Yeah. In one piece. I was really surprised by that. I was thinking, man, I wish we could pick that up and put it back. But now that it sat there over top of the parking bumpers, it's where the sun has heated it up a little bit, it started to form to everything. And there's another washout part. But so we're, like I said, we're kind of, look, all of that was covered before the rain. It just, rock and everything else, it just removed it all.
Water's supposed to be going through that pipe, but it's all rock and wash.
Yep.
That pipe's full.
Well, it was, that was underwater, all that was. But, and there's a little closer view of the underpass back here. So, but there's another angle of that. That's pretty, I was amazed when I seen that. I was like, I cannot even believe it picked that up in one piece. But water is pretty powerful. There's another angle of it too. But you get the gist of how large that piece actually is. And I was a little concerned at first. I'll go back a little ways, because I don't know a whole lot about pavement and installing things, but I thought that should have been milled myself. Because if you mill it, it gives it that top layer of pavement something to grab to. I was told by the streets department supervisor and the assistant city administrator that doesn't have to be milled there in a parking lot. So, but you figure if it's going to be in a floodplain, they should at least put some countermeasure to keep the water going up and over rather than under.
Will they mill it now since it's doing that?
I don't know. They should. But if they're gonna have to pay for all these repairs, I'd say they will next time. But I don't know that. That's totally on them. I can't speak for them. So anyway, but that's just, this is not obviously all the damage, but all of it is very similar in nature. It's all, it's all washed out. It's just not safe. So, but as soon as I know more from the city administrator on what Weiser's response to this was, they like to go between us and the contractor. So I don't know where it sits right now. All I know is the ball's in their court.
AC, can you go back over to the underpass?
Yeah.
So I know there's been a lot of discussion, both in our meetings, also on social media by people who've been using the Greenway. Have we looked any further, or had Kyle look any further as far as anything that can help mitigate the amount of mud that goes in there, whether it's building something that's a little raised up that lets the mud flow underneath it? So if there's a clear walking path, that also mitigates some of the work that your team has to do, because we all know that y'all are stretched. So
Yeah.
Has there been any further
I don't
movement on that?
know. Kyle knows it's a concern. We've talked about it. But with the amount of water that we had the other day, I don't think anything would have stopped this at this point.
No, but even with
You're
just
talking
a
about on
little bit of
regular-
rain.
Yeah, you're talking about on a regular basis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, when John and I rode the trail, there was some of that thin fabric stuff that they put up as
Socks.
it was all ripped totally out. It was gone. I mean, but I don't know if there's they're aware of it, and I don't know if that's something the contractor has to do, or if it's something that we have to do when they're done with it. Some of the other trails do have. It's not a foolproof measure, but it just helps a little bit.
Right, it's
if
something that's
a regular
for
amount of rain.
right, something for our traditional amount of rain. What we had 2 weeks ago, that was essentially a flash flood. Is
Yeah,
what we
basically, it was, and there wouldn't have been. I mean, nothing would have stopped that. So, but I mean, Kyle and I have talked about that, and so if they're going to put it on, if they ask the contractors to do it, I don't even know if that's something that they're required to do, but nothing that we can do until they're done with it. We can't go in there and do anything until they sign off on it. And that's really frustrating, because there's tons of stuff that I'd like to be doing. And we did go down there and cut grass and stuff, but the reason we did that was because if we didn't, there's no telling how bad it would be by the time they got signed off on it, but that's minimal things. We're not going to make any structural differences until they sign off on it, because I'm sure there's some kind of rules against that, or some kind of, things that we could, have issues with. So that's why I don't want to put the trail cams up yet, and I don't want to do anything until they're done and they turn it over to us. So as far as making any structural changes.
Man, whenever you get the trail cams up, put them up high.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're way ahead of you on that. We're going to try to put them in a very inconspicuous spot and put them very high. With there's some lock cables, too, that you can actually get with them, and they're steel. So we'll get some of those and try to, we don't want to use a nylon band on them. Somebody will go up there and cut them and have them on their deer trail in no time. So, but anyway, that's where we're at with everything right now. So.
Well, when you do hear back, however the correspondence goes, we'd really like to stay in touch
as soon
with
as I
that.
hear something, I'll send y'all all email.
Yeah, because I guess my concern is that we've already had issues with just a little bit of rain. Now we've seen what big rain can do, and we've heard some complaints, obviously, about the flooding, and I think all of us have tried to explain to people that you put greenways in flood zones because that's the only thing that can go there. But we want to make sure that everything, I guess, is on par, so that when they do release it, we're not still dealing with these issues.
Well,
Some
and
of
a lot
them
of
are
that-
to be expected.
A lot of that's going to go back to the original grant, which Robin started years and years ago when she was here. What the stipulations of that grant were as far as construction, I'm not 100% sure about that. But I'd say a lot of that will have to do with how much of this is put on us and what we're allowed to do to it. Because certain things like the ball fields back here that were built on a grant, you have to maintain for, it depends on the stipulation, sometimes 5 to 10 years, a certain, clear area or can't build anything else around that area for up to 5 or 10 years. All grants are a little bit different, but some of them say things like that. So I guess we need to get that out and pull that up and then try to read through and see what the specifics are now that we're this close to being done. Well, I say we're this close to being done. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping we are.
Contractor's gonna put it all on the city to fix everything that happened there.
I don't know.
We had it good to go. It's not our fault.
Well,
But they haven't signed off on it.
They didn't sign off on it. That's right.
So
And
that-
there were still plenty of things that they
That's
had
gonna
not
be
finished.
time consuming going back and forth to figure out what we do, that's gonna be a,
Yeah. Well, see, we were already this should have been done back in May. That's a long time ago. So there have been extensions granted and extensions given, and there are stipulations and things that contractors can do when they're working with city government that our hands are kind of tied, and we have to grant them a certain amount of, extra time or whatever. But we'll
And
see.
see now with the cold coming in the way it is, I'm not sure that they'll be able to continue the work that needs to be done
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
maybe the spring, and that's not a very good thing.
No, that's really not good.
People were really excited, looking forward to it, and so I'm disappointed as well
Oh,
that,
I'm too.
the parking lot is in the state that it's in, and those things I would like to see them repair. I mean, that's something that's completely out of our hands,
Yep.
and I'm hoping that they can get it where it should be, so that next spring we're not having to clean up. We, the taxpayers, are not having to pay to clean that up again.
Yeah.
When I kind of feel like something can't be exactly right there.
Yeah.
If a big section is, and I feel like, didn't we have that issue before in the parking lot? Didn't a piece of it break off or something with one of the other rains?
In the Greenway?
Is that what I'm thinking of?
No, with not one of the parking lots. They on the actual trail, there was a section that was paved, and then heavy rains came in. It was whenever their equipment was underwater,
Right.
and a section of it got washed away and filled in with dirt and mud. And there was another.
They've already repaired that?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then there was a section they had dug out that was basically filled right back up during that same time.
Yeah.
That was part of that change order discussion.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. I don't know what the rules are on how many change orders you can get for something like this. And I'm sure there's all kind of fine print when something like this happens too, especially if the contractor's not technically finished with it, Is it still their responsibility until they sign off on it? I mean, I would think so, but that's.
I mean, if the design was structurally sound, we shouldn't have those huge drop-offs from the trail. We shouldn't have part of the parking lot washing away. So there has to be something wrong with the engineering, and they need to look at that.
No.
Because if this happens with one rain, I mean, let's look at our history here in Laverne, we flood frequently.
And what if it does this 2 or 3 times in a month? Then how bad are we going to be? So, and
all
that's,
the time out there.
yeah.
Whatever they used to pave the greenways with, what they need to use on that parking lot, because the path stayed, everything around it went, but the asphalt stayed intact.
Yeah. It washed out around it, but the trail's still there.
Yeah.
But where the water got underneath that parking lot, but that's what I'm saying. They should have put a countermeasure in to let the water go up and over rather than under. And once that water came up out of the creek, man, it was moving.
Is this gonna be one of the most difficult trails here to keep up with?
Oh, yeah, by a mile. Yeah, the
Because of what
most.
we're doing now, we're not even.
Well, we're not doing anything just yet, other than doing a little
I'm
mowing and
saying what we're
weeding.
going through now, we don't even have it open yet and usable
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Once they sign off on it, if it does this again, then this is all on us.
for everything. How
No.
much rain really cause trouble?
Yeah.
Not that, how much rain does it take to,
Well, here's the thing. It's not the amount of rain, it's how quick it falls.
Right.
If you have it in a short period
Slow,
of
easy.
time, then that's what gets you.
A discussion point may be to have with Catherine, just to have her look to see if there's anything that can not necessarily do any major changes to the way that the water flow is, because I know that's a flood area and that's a major
Right.
drainage area, but to see if there's anything that can be mitigated on the impact of it to prevent those drop-offs. I know that, that was a flash flood. That's not a normal occurrence in our area, but if there's anything that can mitigate any of those concerns, like the underpass here or
Well, here's my
any
thing, too.
areas.
The flash flood, I can understand. That's difficult. And the washouts and the mud, I can understand that. But that parking lot, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, if you put a sidewalk there or a curb there, then the water goes up and over. It doesn't get under the pavement. So there was nothing there to prevent it from washing the dirt away and getting under the pavement.
Do we have anywhere to put a retention pond, stop it before it gets there?
Well, just on the other side of that parking lot, there is a retention pond. But it's on the other side.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just got to get there first.
Yeah, Oh, it was getting there too.
It's
but
getting there.
It was
It's
carrying on the
like
parking
it's
lot
really
with
getting
it.
there.
But then again, this all goes back to, all these issues may be solved. I don't know. Once Wiser and the contractors decide what their response to this is, then we'll know more. But right now, it's still in their court. Bruce sent them an email last week or week before last, actually, like on Tuesday. When did we go down there, John? It was Thursday, wasn't it? Wednesday or Thursday? And because it took a while for the water to recede so we could get down there. And once we rode and took pictures, and I showed Bruce and told him all about it, he sent the email to Wiser and said, look, this is what's happened. So it's been over a week, and I haven't heard anything back yet.
Okay.
But he says he hasn't heard anything from
gonna
them.
be
So
on
it being a holiday, I don't know.
It's gonna be on them. They're not signed off on it yet, so it's still
Well,
a baby.
that's what I think.
Yeah,
But-
that's what I think too.
So we'll see, and it probably will be, but I'm just really glad that we didn't go ahead and put garbage cans and benches out there.
They be in Memphis.
Yeah, probably.
Well, whenever we do, we may want to look at securing those.
Oh no, we're gonna concrete them. We're gonna put them down. But man, the way if it did that to the pavement, I don't think a little bracket's gonna hold them things down. If it was going like that. So we'll see. I'm hoping that. We'll just have to be careful, make sure that we do a little extra on those to try to keep them secured into place. And and they're kind of porous too. They're slats, so the water can get through them rather than having a big surface area to push against. So
Did it harm the bridges where it came over the bridge?
didn't do any damage other than depositing a lot of sediment and branches and everything else in them, but it didn't tear any of those up.
Handrail.
Yeah,
New
that's it.
handrail on the handrail.
Yeah.
And the signs that you have put out, they were all fine?
Well, I put the signs out afterward. You're talking about?
No, the like historical signs and things that
Well,
are,
the contractors did that as well.
so it's fine, but
Yeah,
none
they're
of those
fine.
were
I
damaged?
didn't see any damage to the signage, so that was all good. And then we went back afterwards and put we had Garland Streets Department make us up some official signs and put up and post them at all three areas, the entrances to both ends and in the middle there in the parking lot. So that's where we're at right now.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And if I find out something, we'll send you an email to the whole committee. Even if it's tomorrow, I'll make sure y'all know what the next step is or where we're at. So.
Does anyone have any more questions about the Greenway? Just kind of shifting gears, AC, on the other Greenway, on the other side of I-24. Did you have a chance to look at that? I know I've gotten some reports of some graffiti and damage out there.
Derek went over and he took pictures and he showed me everything. Some of the stuff, we're going to just paint the wood on the bridge. We're going to paint it black so we can always go back over and paint it again if we have to. And he did a lot of scrubbing on the bottom where they had put the graffiti on the. It's like a concrete, but it's not. It's some kind of. It's a porous material. So. I said, look, for the time being, until we find out what other countermeasure we can do for this, paint it so that it's not a gang sign and that's no profanity. So we did cover everything up. So, but that's where we're at on that. We'll have to. I guess we had some black spray paint, but we haven't gotten any. I'd like to get some of that deck stuff and roll, the rails and the wood. It's a little bit thicker. It's it preserves it a little bit. So, and then we can always go back and put some more on if we need to.
Okay.
But that's where we're at on that right now. But everything is covered up. And the sign in the front of the park that you had said something about, we went down. That actually came off pretty easy, knock on wood. I was glad about that. John went out there and scraped it off with something sharp. It just cut right off. So, but it's a lot of work keeping up with all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then doing everything else too. So, and I know this ain't gonna do anything. Wait till y'all see that Christmas tree. Y'all all got to try to come to the parade of lights. We put some lights
Be
on
there
that.
after the traffic's over.
Okay, well, I'll wait till you get there. You text me and say, don't flip that switch till I get there.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments, Greenway related? Okay.
All right.
I call this meeting adjourned.
Okay. I will definitely be in touch with y'all as soon as I know something else.
Thank you very much, sir.
Casey, thank you for